It's great to see everybody here. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Maeve Delargy, chairperson of the IWLA. And as you know, we're joined here by Sarah Blake from Earthology. I heard Sarah on a webinar for social entrepreneurs, another great group called Your Why Network. I'd recommend their events if you're interested in kind of what people are doing in the wider world and interesting projects that are going on. And it was pre-Christmas, and I was really struck by Sarah's comments about how to have an eco-friendly Christmas. My mum's always on about, you know, how can we make it more relaxing, more calm, pare it back, and there were lots of interesting tips in that regard, and also just some crazy statistics about Christmas crackers in Ireland and how many we use. So that's kind of got me interested, and I started following Sarah on Instagram, and she kindly agreed to speak to IWLA today. The topic, as you know, of today's session is low carbon lunch, which in retrospect may have been better at a lunchtime or a change of title, but we've taken Sarah's low carbon lunch title, and we're running with that to hear about eco-friendly eating habits and choices we can make just to help us be a bit greener and a bit kinder to the planet. So I will hand over to Sarah now, and looking forward to the tips.
Great. Okay, thanks very much, Maeve, for the introduction. Good to see everybody. Hopefully the comms and everything stays good tonight. I'm hoping that the wind will not stop us, because actually the last time I did do an event with the lady just mentioned there, Layla, the comms did go very askew and I found myself pausing. Wasn't quite like the cat lawyer, but it was yeah, it was one of those carnage moments. And great to see. I'm looking outside and I'm thinking it's only just getting dark now, so it's just great to see that we are seeing all the spring bulbs, and finally we hope that we're going to see the schools getting back, and there's going to be, you know, we have a little bit of hope. So I'm hoping that we are going to have a little bit of positivity tonight. So I'm all about the environment, and I'm all about how to try and make it positive and helpful as opposed to how terrible it is. So yeah, we'll get started. I'm going to start sharing my screen. It would be useful if you have your mobile phone to hand, because I am going to run a little quiz. I think there's about 7 questions tonight, and it just sort of kind of engages people, sees if you're all still awake, or if you're trying to cook dinner at the same time as listening. That could make things interesting. So we will see how it goes. So let's see if we can get the talk up. There we go. So let's see if we can make this work today. It should be all perfectly fine, she says. There we go. So let's see if it's going to do everything. Right, perfect. So hopefully you can all see the screen and it's all brilliantly working. Let's hope so anyway. My mantra is I cannot do everything, but I can do something. So I firmly believe that we can all help towards the climate crisis, and we can all do a little bit of something to make a difference. And here at Earthology, I was just telling Maeve, we start sort of people up. I like to go into companies and talk to the employees, do a lot of behavioral change, that kind of stuff. And then if people are interested in carbon footprinting and the SDGs and how to get on board the sustainability train, then this is how we get them interested and going off on their journey. So that's what we do. So I suppose in terms of what we're going to do tonight, yes, it is low carbon lunch. That's one of our talks, but we'll call it low carbon dinner, I think, given the time slot that we're talking about. So for starters, we're going to talk about shopping and packaging. Then we're going to look at the main course of cooking, plants and eating out, which we all hope we will get back to this year, even if it's outdoors, please, sometime after Easter. And then dessert is going to be talking about waste and compost. So I've kind of mixed it all together a little bit, but it's all to do with kind of trying to mold into the kind of healthy eating, but also eco-friendly eating is really what we're talking about. So this little quiz. I don't know if everybody can see that yet. So what you need to do is, if you go to menti.com and you put in the code 4036582, you should see the screen pop up on your phone. And we should be able to go to the first quiz question. Yay! Oh, I haven't seen a volcano before. Oh, I love these. So you all get a little emoji, and if you're quick enough, you can change the name. Sometimes when I do it, I'm not quick enough, and it just gives me blob or something like that. But yeah. Oh, and I haven't seen the little rowing boat before. And this always does this. You get like little, really great little emojis that I'd really love to actually have them all eco-friendly, like the little bee there, and I could have little windmills and things like that, and turbines and all that kind of good stuff. I'll give us one more minute or a few more seconds just for a few more people to come in. I know if you're trying to cook your tea at the same time as listening to this, then it's probably not going to be very easy to multitask like that. Shamrock. So we're coming up to St. Patrick's Day, so that's all good as well. So, okay, I think we have got quite a few people in, and the rest can join as we go along. Okay, so let's see if we can get it going. So the first question on our little quiz is, flying in food from other countries creates how many more times emissions than shipping? So is the answer 15 times more, 25 times more, or 50 times more? So flying in food from other countries creates how many more times emissions? So let's see. Okay, so the answer was 50 times more. So yeah, this is an absolute shocker that, you know, if you are flying in stuff, we'll get to a little bit about that later, but if you're flying in stuff, it really does make a huge difference, which is why it's much better if it comes by road and rail. So let's do as fastest on the trigger. It's loading the results. Please play. Okay, so looks like, Kira, you were the winner on that question. Yay. Okay. Hula hop. I like that as well. Okay, brilliant. Okay, well done. So moving on then to what we're talking about here. So we are indeed talking about the shopping part of your food to start with. So we're going to look at this holistically from the start to finish of your meal, if you like. So let's start with where you shop matters. Okay, so we talked about there the carbon footprint of flying in food. But it's also to do with, you know, I suppose, road transport as well. So flying in food is huge, and it's, you know, it's something that we just need to think about when we are buying locally, which is the next point. So, you know, at the moment, obviously Ireland, what's in season is pretty much turnips. We've got purple sprouting coming in. You've got beetroots. There's a lot of root veg at the moment. But otherwise, pretty much everything else is flown in, unless it's grown under glass by Keelings or somebody like that locally. The other thing that you should do is obviously try and buy organic where you can. This has a huge impact not only for your health in terms of avoiding all the pesticides, etc., but obviously on the wider impact that growing organically has for the environment. So when people grow organically, you get hedgerows, you get a much better ecosystem for everything to flourish. So, you know, you're avoiding the neonicotinoids for the bees and all that kind of stuff. So that's really important. And then something that we talk about, I suppose, is seasonal and food miles. So I was talking about flying stuff in versus, you know, eating locally, etc. But sometimes, if you're talking about things like, let's say, tomatoes or strawberries, you know, that we eat at this time of year. Well, I don't eat strawberries because they're not in season, but, you know, I probably do still eat tomatoes. And for the most part, those are actually better off if they are flown in from the hot countries like Spain, etc., rather than if they are grown under glass locally or in like Holland, for example, because that's where a lot of food is grown at this time of year under glass. So the growing under glass actually is worse for the environment than flying it in from the hot country. So it's a bit of a minefield, but just try and take it that if you try and eat in season, you're going to be certainly going to be better off. And then fair trade. I mean, I think everybody's aware of fair trade, but it is so important where you can to pick fair trade bananas, coffee, tea, whatever it might be. It just means that a little bit more thought has gone into the process, that farmers get a much better wage, and everything is looked after at source much more considerately, and often much more thought through in terms of the environment. And then they have time and money to put into the environment, which is very important. And it's also important to think about, I suppose, the food miles of these things when they are fair trade and things like that. It does make a difference. And for example, I don't know if anyone eats Quorn, but Quorn were one of the first companies in the world to put a carbon footprint of like their packet of mints or whatever, so it might be, I don't know, 3 grams of CO2 or whatever. And obviously Quorn is a microprotein, so it takes very little effort and energy. It almost generates itself. So it really doesn't need a lot of effort. But so they are one of the first companies that put their hand up and said, right, we're going to carbon footprint the whole thing, including the packaging, etc., so that you know what the carbon footprint is of the corn when you buy it. The next thing to think about is Rainforest Alliance. And this is particularly important when it comes to things like coffee, because Rainforest Alliance certified coffee means again that it's often grown in the shade, because coffee is actually a plant that should grow in the shade and not out. We have them, most of the industrial plantations, they're all out in rows in the sun. This is not how it works with coffee. So it's important to bear in mind, again, just Rainforest Alliance for tea and coffee if you can. And then finally, just something that people might find useful is in Ireland, we have a couple of guys who've got together and created this company called Evo Cocoa. I call them Evo Cocoa, but it's Evoco. And they have put together, it's an app. And what you can do is you can use your phone and take a picture of your shopping list. And they will go through the most, I suppose they have a list of ingredients, a list of, like the fruits and the vegetables and all that kind of stuff, and then it will tell you what the carbon footprint of your shopping was that week. So it'll look at mushrooms, it'll look at blueberries, it'll look at tomatoes, it'll look at tea, coffee, etc. So you have an idea of what your carbon footprint is of your shopping bill, which I think is a great one to do. And if you don't want to use that one, BBC Food also have a climate food calculator. So you can go onto it and say, okay, I want to know what the footprint of chocolate is, right? Very high. So, and also we know it's environmentally tricky as well. So those things are very important to be aware of. So that's a very good tip if you're particularly environmentally friendly and you want to follow up on that, to have a look at that. So next we are going to do another quiz question. So let's see who is back on the phones and back onto Menti. Those people just joined us, menti.com, use the code 4036582, menti.com, code 4036582, and you put the code into your phone, you get a little widget that comes up on the screen, and then you should be able to join the quiz. So for the next question is all about plastic. So how much of all plastic produced is actually packaging? Is it a fifth, a third, or a quarter? How much of all plastic produced is packaging? A fifth, a third, or a quarter? And we all know how much we don't like using plastic packaging if we don't have to. So let's see. Yes, most of you got it right. Brilliant. It was, in fact, a third, which is absolutely shocking, I find. Like a third of all plastic. I mean, you think about all the plastic that's used for medical devices and, I don't know, plastic piping. Like, I mean, of all the plastic produced for things, and a third of it is just for packaging, I find is just absolutely shocking. So let's see, how do people do on that? We're going to have a little leaderboard next. And, Kira's still doing very well. And who is, okay, so whoever D and the Shamrock is, so we've got our 3 leaders there. Very good. Okay, you're all doing very well. So we're going to have a little bit of a discussion here. Has anyone, or does anybody know what a zero is? I hope you all know what a zero waste store is. but let's see. Oh, let's see what happens. I don't know whether it's going to put in. Oh yeah, everybody's putting their results in. Great. Okay, so let's see what it says. A lot of people saying never. I think we had 1 or 2 more people to put something. Yeah, I think that's probably maybe 1 more person. I think we had probably of the people on the call, we have probably half playing. So okay, we'll go with that. Okay, never. Okay, that's shocked me. That's shocked me. Okay, so if you're in Dublin, not that you've no excuse, but there are lots of zero waste store options, and zero waste stores are where you take your jars and bags and things and you refill them with you know, pulses. You can get peanut butter, you can get sweets, you can get detergent, you can get laundry liquid, you can get just about anything that you need from a zero waste store. So oh, it's sometimes it's flipping a little bit while I'm talking. So yeah, and we have in Dublin, we are spoiled. I think most people, depending on north, south, there are a few options for people, and for people who can't get to a store, there is Minimal Waste Grocery, who do actually do nationwide delivery. So brilliant. Okay, well, that was really interesting. Well done to the all of the time 6%. I'm super impressed with that. That is brilliant. Okay, so just to talk about packaging then, I suppose plastic free is your, you know, people always have this, if it's, you know, I go to the supermarket and I see a pepper, but it's organic, but it's in the plastic. So do I buy the organic pepper that's in plastic, or do I buy the pepper that's got the pesticides on it that's plastic free? And then they have a breakdown and they think, I'm just not going to bother. Please don't have that breakdown. It happens to my husband a lot when he comes home and I tell him he made the wrong choice. Sorry. But it's true, you know, we get paralyzed by fear of making the wrong choice. But personally, I'd go for organic and in plastic, because I think that looking after the environment from the pesticides point of view is so much more important. But plastic is such a huge issue as well. So it's your choice, and you know, don't feel strangled by it, really. It's, you know, it shouldn't be your choice to have to make between the two. You know, everybody just does what they can, really. So if you can go plastic free, brilliant. The next thing is to pick stuff that's in glass or metal. Glass here does get recycled. A lot of it actually ends up in roads and in tarmac. Metal, obviously, aluminium. Aluminium is brilliant because it's sort of infinitely recyclable. So it just goes back into the cycle. And also to make aluminium, like new steel, new pots, is actually easier and cheaper than making it out of virgin aluminium, which for most of recycled stuff, it's a lot more expensive. Then obviously go for a loose. So if you go to a zero waste store, and obviously most of the supermarkets now do some of the basics in loose, and obviously we're all coronavirus worried and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know if anybody saw this, but the BBC did a brilliant documentary on how coronavirus stayed longer on the plastic wrapped carrots than it did on the loose carrots. And so when she got home and washed it, you were probably better off. Take that with a pinch of salt, maybe. And then vegetable delivery box scheme. So this is something that we as a family do, hence a lot of turnips, which I am struggling with. But this is a brilliant way of doing plastic free, because there's Harvest, there is Green Earth Organics, there's Beach Lawn. There are a number of, you know, I think Green Earth Organics, I'm pretty sure, is nationwide delivery. And most of the stuff, apart from their salad, which comes in a compostable bag, is all plastic free. And then zero waste and refill stores, I've just talked about those, and we just saw what people, where they were at with it, which is great. And then cling and foil free, I don't have it to hand, my bit of bees wrap. Be interested to know how many people know about bees wrap, but bees wrap is like a wax, it's like wax fabric, and you use it to mold. So if you want to cover, I don't know, a jam jar or a pot or something that you're keeping till the next day, you just use the heat of your hand and the wax seals it like a bit of cling film, which is brilliant. And then you don't need to use cling film. We haven't used cling film for 2 years. And I suppose it's great. You can't really use it sometimes for aluminium, but if you want to just cover something with a plate as well, rather than putting cling film on it, just cover it with a plate. That also works. What else? Oh, jam jars. I am a jam jar fanatic, and I freeze things in jam jars. I put stuff in the fridge in jam jars. I have got too many jam jars, but they're brilliant for, like, you know, that little bit of leftover rice that you might chuck in soup, that little bit of something, and you just literally airtight, and it just goes straight. So what my fridge looks like. And then I bag ready. So, you know, when you go out to the shops, and I think most of us are pretty brilliant in Ireland after the little tax got brought in on the plastic bags. So, you know, just bring your bags. It's just a question of remembering to bring them. And then the thing is, think about when you go clothes shopping, potentially to bring a couple of bags with you as well, and also refuse the bags, you know, the Brown Thomas bag, which, you know, it's got like the cardboard in it, but then it's also got the ribbon, and to make it recyclable you have to take the ribbon off and then put it in the recycling, and you know, that complicates life. Whereas if you've bought your own lovely bag that you like to be seen in, you can do it like that. So, okay, sorry if that was a bit preachy, but it's a difficult thing. My daughter doesn't like walking around Dundrum with her own bag either, but sometimes she remembers to bring it. Depends which bag it is. So we are going to move on and do another little quiz question. So let's see who is back on the phone for a quiz. If you haven't all fallen asleep, let's hope not. So if you only boiled the water you need for your cuppa, we would save enough energy to power the streetlights for how many months? 7 months, 1 year, or 3 weeks? So if you only boiled the water you needed for your cuppa, instead of filling it, overfilling it, how much energy would we save to power the streetlights for? How long do you think? Okay, oh, well done. You were, yeah, that's brilliant. Okay, it was a bit 50-50, but yeah, 6 people got it right. So 7 months, I find this absolutely shocking. So this was based on a study done in the UK, where they said if everybody in the UK only boiled the water that they needed, i.e. so if you're going to make 1 cup, just put in 1 cup. If you're going to use 2 cups, whatever, yeah, just don't overfill the kettle, basically. The surplus energy would drive streetlights for 7 months. I just find that absolutely shocking. So yeah, just something to remember now, to only put your the water in that you need. And let's see who was fastest on the trigger for that one. If I could do a drum roll now would be a good time. Oh, we lost our front runners there. Something happened. Oh, no, we didn't. Oh, okay. That's this is really hotting up. Okay. Heartstorm, you're coming up the ranks. Very good. But Kira, you're still there. I'm impressed. Okay, brilliant. Well done. Okay, so that leads me nicely into cooking. So I suppose when we do the cooking, I've talked about the kettle. Okay, I'll stop preaching about the kettle. But, you know, most people have the little line on it and it says only fill up to 1 cup, 2 cups, whatever. And I can tell you, the thing about only filling it up for 1 cup, if say you're popping down for your mid-morning coffee and whoever else in the house isn't there and you just want 1 cup, it boils so much faster if you just put in that tiny little bit, or you measure it out, you know, with the cup and you pour it in. It's a game changer, trust me, rather than standing there for hours waiting for the kettle to boil. But then you don't get to scroll through your phone and check the news for as long. So microwave, you may or may not have a microwave, but the microwave is extremely efficient at cooking food. It's not great at boiling water, right? That's not particularly an efficient use of your microwave, but, you know, for steaming vegetables. And my children today were doing a cookery course and they cooked a whole butternut squash in the microwave and not in the oven. I nearly fell apart, but oh my God, what a revelation. I would have always roasted it in the oven, but they cooked it brilliantly. All the skin on, the whole thing in the microwave. I think it was 10 or 15 minutes. Brilliant. So it's just thinking about, you know, do I need the oven on? Can I use the residual heat in the oven for something else? All that kind of stuff. Put lids on. Oh, yes, lids. So, you know, if you're going to put pasta on, or you're going to put the water on to boil or whatever, you know, you put your pan on, you turn the gas or the hob up or whatever. And if you put the lid on, it'll all happen a lot quicker. So just something to think about. Think about, is your house powered by renewable energy? So are you signed up to SSE, Energia, Panda Power, one of those. Easy switch, save you 200 quid straight away. It's a no-brainer. So I would definitely recommend that. And in fact, if you go onto switcher.ie, you can check the plans and all that kind of stuff. And they have a list of all the guys that provide renewable energy. Now, obviously, we can't get it all the time here, but the premise is that it's renewable sources for as long as it's available. Then batch cook and freeze. So this means if you have the hob on and you're making, and you're lucky enough to have a freezer or a fridge or somewhere you can store it all, if you're making, chili for one, make chili for two and freeze it. I mean, and we all like the fact that we can go downstairs in the evening and just get something out of the freezer and reheat it. Well, maybe we don't, but I do. I really appreciate that. So it's worth doing because it saves time and energy and probably money. And then oven ready. So this was a study, apart from baking, where I would say maybe you do need to preheat it. But actually, for most things, you don't need to preheat the oven. Unless you really are looking for something crispy, or you're looking to bake a cake or whatever, you can just put stuff in the oven and turn it on. Now, where was this from? I can't remember. But the study showed that you didn't need to worry about preheating the oven. And we're also paranoid. We have it on for like 20 minutes while we're like getting all the stuff out. And yeah, we just don't need it, and it wastes a lot of energy. So that's going to bring us on to another quiz question. So question 4, how am I doing for time? All right, okay, I shall try and shimmy along. So question 4 is all about meat and dairy. So what % of global emissions are from meat and dairy? What do we think? Is it 5.6%, 7.3%, or 14.5%? What % of global emissions are from meat and dairy? Let's see what people think. Drum roll, please. Or we're quiz people. We've lost our phones. We're falling off. Okay, 7 people said 14.5%. Were you right? You were, of course. Yeah, this is absolutely shocking. Yeah, we'll get onto that screen in a minute. Let's see who is. Oh, where's the leaderboard gone? We want to see who came top of that. Oh, are things switching up? They could be. Oh, D with the Shamrock. You are, and Hannah Heartstorm, I told you, you were coming up the ranks. Brilliant. Okay, well done. Super impressed with you guys. Okay, so powering up on plants is what I call it. Everybody has very different opinions on this, but yes, 14.5% of global emissions are from meat and dairy. Now, this is a statistic that's been much bandied around, but it's roughly the equivalent to the exhaust emissions of every car, train, ship, and aircraft on the planet. Like, I just find that shocking. So it's something to bear in mind when you are making your food choices, which leads us on to 25% of a person's emissions comes from diet. So if you were to look up some of the carbon calculators, of which there are some on Friends of the Earth, World Wildlife, carbonfootprint.org, loads of places you can go and check your carbon footprint, you'll find that your diet is one of the biggest ways to shape it up, hence the topic for this evening. So ways to think about changing it up. These are some great hashtags. Meat Free Mondays, started by the Linda McCartney Foundation, and they have some fabulous recipes, vegan, vegetarian, and other. And if you haven't done Veganuary, I highly recommend it. They just give you great tips and ideas if you're thinking, well, what do I do with that? Or I don't like oat milk, or they just come up with some really great ideas, and it's brilliant just for different ways to have a think about what you're going to have for tea, and how to make it more climate friendly, really. And I didn't look this year, but I think the impact of Veganuary last year, so with people's commitments this was based on, they reckon that had the impact of 500,000 single flights from London to Berlin. with the amount of changes that people made, which I thought was amazing. Then just, I suppose people are talking about going vegan and, you know, climate friendly, and then the soya, not soya, what to do, and then avocados and almonds. Very tricky if you like avocados and you like almond milk, because obviously we can't grow avocados here. They are very water intensive to grow. So if you are vegan, and lots of people have this, I think, have this perception that vegans just stuff avocados in their faces all the time, which I don't think is true. But you know, it's definitely something to bear in mind just when you're thinking about the impact of things. And it takes 74 liters just to make 1 liter. 74 liters of water just to make 1 liter of almond milk. So almonds are a very thirsty crop, and I don't know if anyone's seen, but in California, where they have the what's it called, the valley where, not Napa, but the valley where they grow everything is actually sinking, because it's sinking, trying to get down to the aquifers, but there's no water left in the aquifers where it was. So the land, there's a pole that you can see, and you can see that the land in places has shrunk 60 foot because of all the intensive farming there. So pretty shocking. Lentils. I'm a big fan of lentils for everything. They're great to stuff in stuff, and they're just great. They're great for fiber. They're great for reducing cholesterol. They're great for overall improving your diet. They're just brilliant. And if you have somebody who is, let's say, not particularly keen on going more vegetarian, then think about just pushing a few red lentils into their bolognese. That's all I'm going to say, because you can put a few lentils in, and most of the time they don't notice that you have replaced some of the meat with lentils. So genius tip there. And then flexitarian, so that might mean that you eat meat once or twice a week, or fish, and the rest of the time you are vegetarian or vegan. And something to look up is the World Wildlife Fund's Live Well diet, which gives you an idea of you know, what that looks like and how we can live better. And then I just put there health, because obviously you know, processed red meat, etc., has been linked to cancer and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely better for your health. And I don't know if anybody's been watching the RTE What Planet Are You On, and they have Marco from the UK who does the food bit, and yeah, he's got some shocking statistics about food and what we should be actually eating. It's not grass, but like, you know, you might very well think that it is. So we have another quiz question, so I hope you're all still there. So menti.com, and let's see if it's going to work today. Oh yes, it is. It's still working. Good. Okay, so how many coffee cups are used an hour in Ireland? And I can't always see my questions properly, but so I'm talking about disposable coffee cups. You know, you go out for a cup of coffee, and at the moment with coronavirus, not many cafes are doing this. So how many coffee cups are used an hour in Ireland? Takeaway ones. Ooh, so everybody had a very different opinion there. Yeah, 22, and this has probably gone up. Actually, 22,000 cups an hour are chucked in the bin in Ireland. I can't. Anyway, yeah, I'm not even going to go into that, because some coffee shops are still doing reusables. So there's different ways you can do it. But if you go onto the Conscious Cup campaign, they show you how you can do contactless coffee, i.e. you can either put your cup inside one of their cups, and then they just carry it around the machine and do all the thing, and then give it back to you, and you just take out your cup, or you slide your cup over on a tray, and then they pour in the milk and all that kind of stuff, and nobody touches anything, and it's all good, and nobody has the risk of coronavirus. Anyway, so there's no need for takeaway cups. So let's see who. Oh, changing up, people, changing up. Oh, Kira's back on top. Okay, this is hotting up. It's getting exciting. Okay, great. So eating out, where are we now? Okay, not doing too badly. We'll have time for questions if you're all still awake and you haven't died of starvation from wanting your tea. So eating out. eating out. Sorry, it just sounds so like, will we ever eat out again? Anyway, we will, it'll all be fine. So this is something to think about when you are going out for food. So one of the best things to look at is the food provenance. So, you know, obviously if you're going into a nice place, generally they will say, oh, we have Cashel blue cheese, or we have whatever the meat is from, etc. So just to be wary of that and to be mindful, you know, and hopefully they use local produce, which is great. Bring your reusable cup and bottle. Now, not necessarily to a restaurant, right? But obviously if you're out and about. So I should just use my poor children again as an example, but my child went out this afternoon and she forgot her water bottle and was absolutely devastated because she was really thirsty and she didn't want to buy a plastic bottle. What have I done? Anyway, so yeah, it should be like when you leave the house with your car keys, your house keys, whatever, you just think reusable cup and bottle, as well as your bags and all that kind of stuff. And you feel like now as a woman, you're going out the door with this ginormous handbag with everything in it. But if you know you're going to meet up with someone for a coffee or whatever, and you know the cafe takes reusables, then bring it with you. Seasonal menu. So a lot of chefs, we're doing some stuff with Connor Spacey at the moment, and he runs Ink in Dún Laoghaire and a few other of the major in-house cafes actually, and it's eating seasonal. I'm going to go back to the turnips, but like it's so important that we try and get back to, you know, forgetting that we don't have blueberries, that we don't have pineapples, that we, you know, just to try and, I mean, you know, the strawberries, Wexford strawberries in the summer, they're just like a world away from something that's come from Egypt. Bugbear. So it's just to try and think that, and when you're eating out, check, does the place that you're at, you know, have they thought about that, and have they been able to use local produce? Does the place have water, beer, wine on tap? I'm very lucky to live in Terenure, and Salumi Grazing is now on my doorstep, and they do wine on tap. I can take my little bottle with the thingy lid, and they will fill it up, and genius. So it's possible. It's just seeking these things out. Then no straws. I mean, last summer I did go into a few places and I wanted a gin and tonic, and I didn't think to say no straw because I just assumed they weren't going to give me one, or I was going to get a paper one, and a couple of times I still got a plastic straw. Anyway, you know, nobody's perfect, but there we are. So yeah, try and say to them, no straw, don't need a straw. And then take home leftovers. So, you know, it depends how you feel about this in the current situation, but again, if my daughter doesn't eat her pasta or whatever, we just get them to bag it up, bring it home. And more often than not, she'll have it the next day, microwaved or whatever. Look beyond the menu. So what I mean by that is, you know, look at the decor, the lighting. Do they run on renewable energy? Have they said anything about that? You know, the more we start asking people about these things, the more they're going to think, oh, I need to do something about that. Very important. So it's just to be mindful of that, really, when you're going out, and just ask them, like, you know, where did the fish come from? Is it MSC certified? Is it farm salmon? Which isn't brilliant. It's okay, but you know, yeah, where is it? Is it wild? Where is it caught from? You know, all that kind of things. So just to be mindful of it, really, when you're out. So where are we now? Oh yeah, we haven't got long, so we're nearly there. So question 6 of 7. So 2 more questions. And this one is, oh, my pet hate project. Which of these actions do you think has the biggest impact on climate change? Is it wasting less food, becoming a vegetarian or vegan, or composting your food waste? Which of these actions do you think has the biggest impact on climate change? Wasting food, becoming vegetarian or vegan, composting your food waste. Oh, yes, I thought that might happen. So yes, actually, food waste, according to a company called Project Drawdown in the US, who did loads of studies on this and now have the top 100 solutions that we can do about climate change and the most carbon they will draw down, have come to the conclusion that food waste is in the top 3 things that we can do about climate change. The top 3 things. So let's see. Wow, leaderboard, come back. Let's see, leaderboard, where did you go? Oh, it's not going to give me the leaderboard. I'm not going to get the leaderboard now till the next one. It's disappeared. Oh, that's a bit weird. Okay, we will find out who is going to win after the next question. So food waste accounts for 8% of global emissions. Shock, horror. Oh my God, this is awful. So yeah, a third of all food is wasted. A lot of it's wasted, obviously, at the production stage. You know, you've heard all about the wonky food and the knobbly tomatoes or whatever, they're the wrong size, etc. They just get fecked out and put into a pile and then they just rot, and it's bad because apparently the consumers want, you know, exactly round tomatoes, which we know isn't true. So in Ireland and the UK, we throw away 8 million tonnes a year. In Ireland, it's 1 million tonnes, which is enough to fill Croke Park twice over with food waste. Which is a bit of a shocker. And then a study done by the Irish Times reckoned that if we didn't put our money in the bin, i.e. every time you throw something away, the bit of limp lettuce at the back of the fridge, all that kind of stuff, every time you throw something away, they reckon that you could save up to about €1,000 a year if you stopped throwing food away. So all those little bits of bread, you know, you may not think like, you know, it's a lot, but once you've put, you know, it would be interesting to see if you actually took you know 1 week and said, okay, this is how much I've filled up. And it depends, if you're in an apartment, it's so hard because often they don't have brown bins and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, just something to be, you know, really mindful of. So if you have a bit of limp salad or stuff like that, I mean, I think that's one of the, definitely that's highest on the Stop Food Waste. Said it was highest on the list was salad. You just put it into ice cold water a lot of the time, and it will, if it's really limp, it might not come back, but a lot of the time it will bounce back, and it's perfectly good to eat. Use by dates, I don't know if anyone knows use by and best before. So use by date is a pretty finite, we wouldn't want you to eat it after this point. The best before is, this is your choice to decide whether it's good or not to eat after this date. So the use by date is what the consumer knows. So if it's meat, you probably wouldn't want to eat it after the use by date. But you know, it's just use your intelligence, really, I suppose. If something smells a bit whoa, then you're probably not going to eat it. But if it looks fine and smells fine, then, you know, maybe just ignore the best before date and use your own to think about it. Then crisp peelings. Now this is for people who are super duper interested and have probably thought about this already, but you know, when you peel your potatoes or carrots and whatever, and you have a pile of clean peelings, you can in fact just chuck a little bit of oil and salt on them and roast them in the oven, and they are amazing. And so you've got crisp peelings. I really need to come up with a better word for that because it doesn't sound very appetizing. And then I suppose what I do at the end of the week is, a lot of the time my family get risotto, because I feel I can chuck just about anything into risotto. Yes, including the turnip, made it in there the other day. So it, you know, I think risotto, soup, all those kind of things are brilliant for like the stuff that you're like, okay, I've got like half a carrot, a bit of onion, I really don't know what to do. Tin of tomatoes, you know, there you go. You've got a sauce or you've got soup. And then the Olio app. Now this is really just getting off the ground here. Not that many people use it, but it's a bit like Too Good To Go. I don't know if you've heard of that, where you basically, if you've got something that you're going away on holiday, when we can go on holiday again, or if you're leaving for some reason and you've got food that's about to go off, or you've got too much, or you've made too much or something, you can put it out onto the Olio app, and then someone will take it off your hands for free. So instead of it going into the bin, it doesn't go to waste, it goes to somebody else. So that's a great way of, especially if you're by yourself and you've got too much and you want to share it, but you know, at the moment you don't know who you can or you can't share it with, you just leave it on your doorstep and someone else will come and make use of it. Have I mentioned everything? I think I have. How are we doing for time? Oh, yes. Okay, so final quiz question, and let's hope that the leaderboard gives us the leader in a second. So this one is our final topic. So Methane is how many more times powerful as CO2 as a greenhouse gas? I'm pretty sure that's what it says behind my screen. Is it 8 times, 22 times, or 34 times? So methane is what is produced when you compost things, or when it goes into the wrong bit. Oh, very clever. Yes, you're all very good. I'm super impressed with that. Right, okay. So let's see if the leaderboard is there. Fingers crossed. Da, 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 da. If I could do a drum roll, I would. Is that going to change things? Oh, where did Casper come from? Round of applause for Casper, whoever you are. A ghost. You are the winner. Oh, Kira, I'm so sorry. I thought you were doing very well. Okay, so this is the last bit, and then we'll do questions, and then you can go and have your tea. So compost. I bring methane into the situation because when food waste goes into the black bin and ends up in landfill, it creates methane, which is so much more powerful than CO2 and so much more damaging short term in terms of emissions for the environment. So these are some suggestions, right? If you are stuck in an apartment and you have no access to a brown bin, which is a problem that we really need to sort in Ireland, but is so complicated and so annoyingly difficult to sort. Hopefully you do have one, but a lot of people don't. These are some suggestions for how to get composting. So you can get something called a bokashi bin, which is like yay big and actually can sit on the counter, and you sprinkle in this, you put in your peelings, and then you can sprinkle in this stuff, which is a bit like old bran, which is like the micro bacteria that all gets to work, doodle-doodle-doo, and then out of the bottom comes lovely little bits of compost. So, and it doesn't smell, it's just a genius thing. Then if you're really super enthusiastic, you can get a wormery. My daughter's school has one, which is brilliant. So you put on your peelings. The only things about wormeries is they don't like cooked food particularly, or shouldn't be given cooked food. So it's mainly the peelings and stuff like that. But you put all the peelings in layers of newspaper, the worms are all happy, and they make compost. And then they also make this kind of thing called worm juice, which is brilliant for putting on your plants. So that could be house plants, could be indoors, outdoors, whatever. Traditional compost bin, which you can see in the little picture. So that's where, again, you want to be with compost, you want to be layering it up like a lasagna. So you want to be having brown. So if you haven't got any brown stuff, like let's say you have a garden and you've got like dead leaves, twigs, plants, whatever, all that kind of stuff, dry, brown, you can layer up that with peelings. But if like now you don't, there's not a lot of that kind of stuff around in the garden right now, just put in newspaper or brown cardboard or whatever. So you've got a really greasy pizza box that can go in your compost, but try and make it a 50-50 mix, because that's what is going to make you lovely crumbly compost. And then a hot bin is, so if you are somebody who's really not quite that enthusiastic on the composting situation, but you do have a garden and you'd like to get involved, hot bin is about 180, something like that. It's a narrow bin. It's really well insulated. It can get up to temperatures of like 60, which is what an industrial composter gets up to and needs to get up to. So, in your traditional compost bin, you're probably not going to be putting in, food waste like pasta and stuff like that, because it just attracts vermin. That's not pleasant. Whereas the hot bin, it gets up to 60, and so when it's full properly, and it's brilliant. So you can put in just about everything in there. Sharewaste.com. So if you're in an apartment, you don't have access to a brown bin, you don't want to do the bokashi, wormery or whatever, perfectly understand that. Flick onto sharewaste.com. It's a global thing, and we do have quite a lot of sites in Ireland. This means that you can take your peelings and all this kind of stuff, and you can give them to somebody who would take them from you and compost them. Yay! And who really likes composting. And the best thing about composting is that it's free. Free plant food. Free plant food. So yeah, it's really, really good. And I really like composting as a thing that we can do about climate change and the end process of our food situation, because if food waste were a country, it would be the third largest contributor to greenhouse gases after China and the US. So definitely something that we can probably all do on a small scale. And as people say, we don't need 7.8 billion people doing this perfectly. What we need is 7.8 people doing this, 7.8 billion people doing this imperfectly. So if you just do a little bit, then that will help a lot. So let's see, what have I got left for you? I think that was it, other than, oh yes, so you've let me rabbit on for a good 45, nearly 50 minutes. If you want to put some feedback onto the screen, it won't come up on the screen. It's all right. So if you put, I thought Sarah rambled on excessively, or whatever, this is just for me, my feedback, it won't be seen. The results are hidden from the screen. So and then chuck in your email address if you would like me to put you on the newsletter. I can do that as well. So yeah, that's really it. And then was there one more thing? So yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that would be fabulous. And no, there we go. That's me. So I'll go back to that screen, because then you can pop down what you think, and I will stop sharing the screen. So hopefully you all got something from that, and I'll have a quick look at the chat now. So, oh, price difference. That is a good question. You don't have to forget about that, because lots of people don't have that choice, right? So if you're most people are in a privileged position where they can make that choice about the little. It's very difficult, right? Because you have the little loss lead. I have a problem with the little loss leaders and that, because it's what they do to farmers when they give you a 39-cent pepper. It didn't cost 39 cents to make that pepper. Absolutely no way in hell can you make a pepper for 39 cents when you need to, heat the place, you need to feed it, all that kind of stuff. So they do that to get you into the store. That's not to say we shouldn't buy them, but it encourages them to do so. I think the price difference, it depends how you use your fruit and vegetables, and how, if you use lentils and pulses and stuff, you can make them go a bit further, and then the price differential then kind of does equal out a little bit more. So it's like if you said, okay, I'm still going to eat meat, but I'm only going to have organic, then you just don't have as much meat as you don't have meat every night of the week or whatever, and you use your lentils and pulses to eke it out a bit more. That's my personal feeling on it, but again, it is very hard, because not everybody can make that choice again, and not, in terms of trying to change the system, we are quite far behind at the moment. So it's something that we should definitely work towards and encourage people to make the right decisions. The contactless coffee cup guide, that's quite difficult to say, is Conscious Cup campaign. It's actually run by Friends of the Earth. Well, it's actually Sosha from Conscious Cup campaign. But yeah, Conscious Cup, is it consciouscupcampaign.ie, I think. But I can always send something around about that. But you'll know it's because it's got a little logo, and she's on Instagram as well. And she has a map of who is doing contactless coffee at the moment. And what she is suggesting is that if your cafe doesn't do it, that you look up the video on the website, you tag your coffee shop on Insta or whatever, and say, I really love your coffee, but can we do it like this, please? Now, may or may not want to name and shame them, I don't know, because they're all having a really rough time right now. We don't want to kick them, but we're trying to tell them that, would save them the price of the coffee cup, so we're saving them money. They just don't see it yet. Or just go into the store and have a nice word with whoever's there, show them the video and say, do we think we could do this? And then, nappies. This is so hard. Yeah. Okay, so there is a really lovely, brilliant lady to follow in the UK. And actually, if anybody follows Pat from Yuzi, she's done a lot about nappies and young children. I'm so lucky that my children are out of that stage. There isn't really an environmentally good way unless you use reusables. I said it. But they have come back into fashion. It does mean having a bucket. somewhere, obviously, because you have to do something to the nappy before it goes into the washing machine. But it is possible, and there are cloth nappy libraries where you can rent it out, see if you like it, and if you don't like it, they go back. And there are lots of people to help out with advice. But the other lady I was going to mention is Jen Gale in the UK, who runs Sustainable-ish, and it's sustainablelife.co.uk, she says. But anyway, look up Sustainable-ish, and she has an amazing resources section, of which there's a very good bit for young children about, there's a new company just setting up in Ireland, actually. They're called Waterful. Yes, Waterful, as in Full, Waterful wipes. And they're on Instagram as well. So they are made of plant fiber, and they will eventually, and they're obviously water only and not full of chemicals as well. And they will eventually rot down. The trouble is they'll probably be inside the not rotted downable nappy. It depends on your bin company as well. A lot of the stuff in Ireland is incinerated, and some of it's turned into energy, some of it. So we just have a little bit of wish cycling there when it comes to the nappies. Can you put kitchen towel in the hot compost bin? Oh yes, absolutely. You can put kitchen towel in your regular brown bin. You can put everything in your brown bin. I'd like to put my children in there sometimes. No, I'm kidding. So, you know, in your brown bin, you can put cooked pasta, you can put chicken bones, you can put tea bags, although some of them have got plastic in, but that's a whole different webinar. Then you can put in tea leaves, you can put in fish, you know, anything goes into the brown bin. And yes, I know I do have a friend who has managed to get her hot bin that hot that it has it has broken down chicken bones. So you might not want to try it at the beginning, but if you get your bin hot enough, it should compost down. So what do we think, Maeve? Have I rabbited on for too long? Probably.
That was amazing. So much information. And I thought it was great that, you know, there's options there, and even if you don't do all of it tomorrow, you know, you can pick the things that are easier for you, and that idea of like swapping out some of the meat with lentils, like it doesn't have to be all or nothing, it's just like a little bit.
No, exactly. And like, so one of my children doesn't like mushrooms, one of them is like, oh, this corn stuff, you know, so you just do what you can. I think that's the key thing. And you know, is it Maya Angelou? You know, like once you become aware, you know, then you should make the educated choice if you can. I think that's the thing. So if you're blissfully unaware and you don't know any different, then, you know, you don't know any different. But once you become aware, then the thing is to make the aware choice if you can, and to tell other people that you just saved 200 quid by, you know, changing your renewable energy, or you just switched to reusable nappies and you've saved all this money instead of giving it to Pampers, or, you know, and you don't tell them necessarily about the bad side. But, you know, yeah, there's those kind of things. I think that just telling people, spreading the message about the good things, because no one's going to make these changes if they're a pain in the ass. It's only going to be if it's easy, like share waste. So if you find somebody, you know, 2 doors down from you who runs the share waste for Drimnagh, or I don't know, but like, you know, you're like, brilliant, I can go and take my peelings there, because it's, you know, really close or whatever. So it's all about finding those things that fit with your family and your lifestyle. You know, when we go back to flying, offset your flights, do you know what I mean? All those kind of things. Really cheap. It's like, I don't know, €10 or something. Like, it's really nothing to do those kind of things, you know, and in terms of the cost of the flight, etc., which is probably going to be really expensive to do now if we still have Ryanair when we go back to it. But that's a whole another question for another day. So yeah, so I hope for that bit. And if there's any more questions, I see those were the main ones. I suggest popping onto Earthology. I'm on Insta, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. Just pop me a message. You know, if you think, oh, I never asked her about that and I'd really like to know. And actually, there is a lady in the UK bringing out a brilliant book where, a bit like I described at the beginning with the plastic or organic, or I can't afford to make those choices, what choice should I make instead? She's bringing out a book. But, you know, when you're paralyzed by what's the best environmental decision to make. So yeah, when that's out, I'll put that out on my Insta.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Yeah, as I said, loads there. And I think, you know, a positive, you know, we can do something and we don't have to give up everything. And yeah, you know, that everybody doing a little bit will make a big difference. So I think that was empowering rather than scary or worrying. And I think you showed us how to share in a positive way and rather than a preachy way. So thanks so much for joining us, and thanks everyone for being here. We'll see you at the next event, which is maternity coaching. I believe it's on the 25th of next month, but follow us on our social media to find out more about that.